Howdy folks, this is Willis, and let's make this better. Here's our problem. We've got a blown fitting here at the junction of the 3/4 inch threaded pipe going into a threaded fitting at the bottom, I believe, and a glued fitting here. And this goes into the anti-siphon valve for the sprinkler system. So we're going to have to go and shut the house water off, and then shut the water off of the street. The house water needs to get shut off so that the water coming from the house doesn't backflow once we disconnect this. So let's get that water shut off, and we'll start working. Okay, I've already shut the water off in the house, so it's not going to backflow here. The hard way to do this is to take everything here apart and disassemble everything. I can break the connection here with the union, but then I'd have to unscrew everything because I can't rotate this enough to take it off. So the easy way to fix this is to, instead of replacing this glued fitting, is to put in a union. Now this 3/4 inch union has threads at the bottom, so that'll thread onto the black pipe that's coming out of the ground. Then I'll put on this threaded to slip adapter and then glue onto here. We want the overall stack height to be the same, so we're going to need to cut the pipe. At approximately this height, so that the end of this pipe here will go into the slip fitting here. It's better to cut a little too long than too short. You can always cut longer than shorter. Okay, so that's our plan. We will take this apart here, cut here, remove this whole assembly, glue and screw these guys onto here, screw this guy onto the threaded pipe down here. To do that, we'll be using these things. Trying to put things into shade here. We've got the 3/4 inch fitting union, which has an O-ring that gets clamped by this compression nut on the side. Then we've got 3/4 inch fitting, 3/4 inch thread to slip fitting. We've got purple primer to glue things together, regular clear PVC cement, got some Oatly fast tape. All the threaded connections have to be sealed with Teflon tape, and got a big water pump pliers for water pump gripping things, and we've got our handy hacksaw. So let's get to work. Let's start hacksawing away. Obviously we have gloves to protect ourselves. We've got cardboard because the purple primer really does not go away. So let's go back to our patient. So we're going to make the cut first and then break the connection here at the union. So we'll cut first so that the union and the rest of the piping supports the rest of the stack. It's always a little tough getting your saw in there, so I'm going to cut a little long. Putting a little backward tilt and a little upward tension on the on the pipes so that the saw doesn't bind as much, but it's still binding like crazy. Okay, so now we're through. Good. Now we're going to open the union here. That screws down. All right, so it doesn't want to budge, so that's why we have the water pump pliers. Okay, so it needs to rotate across here. Yeah, there we are. Just a little twist and we're good. There's some residual pressure in the sprinkler system, and here's the O-ring for the union, so we want to make sure that that goes back in and stays there. So that's what makes the seal. All right, so we can set this aside. What we're going to do now is take this guy off with the water pump pliers. All right. All right, that looks good, and it is indeed threaded. It looks like it was put on with some Teflon tape, which is good. Get rid of that excess Teflon tape. Okay. Use a knife to just clean the threads a little bit, clean that excess tape off the threads. There you go. Well, here we go. Well, the important bit of the threads are clear, the threads that will engage up top. The rest of it's just sort of style points. So we're good. There we are. Okay, good enough for that work. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the bottom end of the union on there. And so to do that, we're going to use some of the fast tape. This is the bottom end, and the key is to make sure that you put this nut on so that it can come up and over. So I always drop it on first and make sure, double check that it is really there. Then we're going to use some of this Oatly fast tape, which I do like. We put 2 or 3 turns in the direction that we're going to be twisting the fitting onto the pipe. One, 2 and 3. All right. So now the nut is indeed on there. And spin that guy on. And the important thing to do is not mess this bearing surface up, because that's the surface that the O-ring interacts with. All right, so now we'll grip it down here and tighten with the water pump pliers. I'm grabbing the pipe down here just to make sure that it doesn't turn, so that I know how tightly to, when to stop turning the fitting up above. Got quite a ways to go here. Looking at the inside of the bottom end of the union. All right, feeling pretty good. Okay, so that's on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on this guy here, and we're not going to take it apart quite yet because we have the opportunity to dry fit this whole thing. What I'll do is put the top end of the union together, and by screwing these two together with Teflon tape, and then we will see if the overall height is correct, and then make any adjustments by trimming this end off. So let's do that now. Since we're in the shade, it's nice and cool here compared to being out there in the sun. So we will 2 or 3 turns of the Teflon tape. You can see that I've already lost my tip of my glove, so I'll have to replace that shortly before we start the gluing. All right, so now here's the top end of the fitting with the O-ring. Haven't lost the O-ring. Get these guys screwed together and try not to cross thread. All right. Got the screw down pretty good. You can see that I've got a lot of thread still yet to engage. All right, that's gonna do it. So now I'm going to fit that on. That's good and tight. It looks like it's down and in there. So that we're good there. Now we can dry fit, which is a pleasure. All right. So looks like we are pretty good. If anything, we're a little short here. So I cut a little too short. So what we'll do is we'll glue a little short. Sorry, not a little short, but not push it in quite so deeply. I'm going to just try to make a mark here. The mark will probably get cleaned off with the purple primer, but maybe a little bit of the mark will stay. So we'll need like an extra 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch. So let's go and glue it up. We'll just work here over the pipe, over the hose. Now, the problem is always getting the slip fittings apart once you've sort of squeezed them together. So, okay. So even if I leave a 1/4 inch long, I still have plenty of pipe in the fitting. So let's clean and glue. purple primer, the messy boy. And I've already got a mess on my fingers, so let me change my gloves. Well, let me change my glove. I only have one glove left in the box out here, so we'll just do what we can. Okay, purple primer. Got to prime the pipe. Then the inside of the fitting. Nice. Try to keep the glue out from the O-ring. I've already lost the rubber O-ring, so that could be a problem. But we will find that O-ring in a little bit. Here it is. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over here just to make sure it's safe. Now what we're going to do is use the PVC cement. This is regular clear PVC cement, and sometimes it's hard to get the lid off, and that's where the water pump pliers come in handy again. 1001 uses. There we are. Wow, that's tight. Okay. Must have had a good leak there. So now we will glue everything up. Glue on the pipe. And glue on the inside of the fitting. Okay. Now we will put them together and with a little twist, and we'll give a 1/4 inch, an extra 1/4 inch there. We're going to hold it for about 30 seconds. All right. Good. Now the fitting won't slide apart. Now let's put her back together. What we'll do is we'll put that O-ring back in the bottom here. We can't pressure test for about half an hour, so we will let it set up in position. Yeah, that's nice. There's no stress on either of the fittings. Both fittings have their O-rings. That O-ring wants to come out, but let's put that back in. O-ring 1, O-ring 2. Let's get this upper one screwed together. Do it lightly first. Nice. Get this lower and screw together. And lightly at first. Okay. These are screwing on together very easily, which is nice. Means that there's no tension on the unions. All right, then we'll give just a little bit of tightening with the water pump pliers. Don't want to over tighten these puppies. Okay. All right. And that should do it. Okay. What we'll do is we'll wait 30 minutes and let things set up, let the glue set up, and we will pressure test it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the valves to off and off here, so there are no surprises. The sprinkler system is now disconnected, and when we turn the street water back on, it'll pressurize the house and the junction here. So elapsed time 20 minutes from stating the problem to the repair. So it helps to have a whole bunch of spare parts on hand. Thanks for watching, and thanks for helping me make this better. All right, it's been about an hour, so let's pressurize the water system at the street and see if we've got any leaks. We'll just make sure everything's tight. Yep, and these are both to off. Okay, water's turned back on. Don't have a leak here, that's good. No leak down here. Let's pressurize the anti-siphon valve. Good. Then let's pressurize the sprinkler system. Good. Okay. Success. All right. Well, thanks very much for helping me make it better. We've replaced that threaded fitting with the union, and looks good. Until next time, signing off.